Hi, everybody. We are back with another episode of the Coffees and Content podcast. We are in this new era, but bringing back a familiar face that you guys are all well aware of. We are bringing back the amazing Amy Dickinson, who is the founder of the Social Summit. And today we have a slightly different take on, I guess, today's conversation that we want to bring to the Coffees and Content podcast. We're not necessarily sharing tips and tricks. We want to give you a behind the scenes look at what it looks like to really successfully market and scale an event. So today, Amy and I are going to get into the behind the scenes of the Social Summit, what round 1 versus round 2 looked like, and what Amy's taking into round 3. We're going to look at the behind the scenes of running events. So I've done social media events over here in New Zealand as well. We're going to talk about what it looks like to really run and scale those events and what people don't see behind the scenes. And the last thing that we're going to touch on today, because both of us think it's such an important thing to discuss, is looking at energy management. So before, during, and after an event, because for any of you who have run an event before, you're pretty much taken out the next day. So we're going to talk about the reality of what that looks like and hopefully share a few insights that you can all take away for the next event that you all run. So welcome back to the podcast, Amy. I'm so happy to be having you back for, like I said, it's not a new season, it's a new chapter, it's a new era. We're doing things differently, but welcome back.
Thank you. It's so good to be back. I feel like we haven't chat in a hot minute, but we both needed some time on the Social Summit to chill. I got my tonsils out. If anyone hasn't been following along, I had an emergency tonsillectomy right after the Social Summit. So I feel like I'm only just getting back into planning our next event. And now all of a sudden I've got less than 4 months until the next Social Summit. And I'm like, how did that happen? I'm stressed.
I know, it's crazy. I feel like time is just completely flying, but yeah. I'm so glad that you are well recovered. I myself had my tonsils taken out and it is not a fun experience. So it's nice to be able to get back on the podcast. I feel like both of us kind of took a little bit of time off at the same time just to rest and let that be a reminder to anyone that's listening that it's okay to take a break when you've been going and going and going and doing crazy big things, growing and scaling businesses. It is really important to take a break. So we're going to get into, I guess, running an event and talking about what it looks like to run it behind the scenes. I'm really keen for this particular segment of the podcast to ask you some of the key differences, I guess, that you found between, you've now done 2 social summits. We've done one in Sydney and one in Melbourne. Both have been absolutely incredible. I had the privilege last time round to be on the stage moderating a couple of panels, which before we started recording this episode, we've just chatted about. But I'm really keen to talk through, I guess, first and foremost, what do you feel like has been the biggest difference for you, whether it's, I guess, in terms of feeling or the business or what you've noticed? What has been the biggest difference between running version 1 and version 2?
Okay, so firstly, I feel like version 1 was honestly like, just get something out. You know, our branding wasn't perfect. I go back now and I look at the promotion of the event, what we were putting out on socials, and I have literally privated all of those posts because I'm mortified looking at our branding and what we were putting out to the public. So yeah, just refining our brand. But the biggest thing was also focusing on how do we make this a profitable business. So our first event, we didn't make any profit. Our second event, we did make a little bit of profit. So that was really exciting. And, you know, there's only a few ways that with an event you can really monetize it. So firstly, through your partners and brand activations. Then secondly, you know, increasing ticket sales or giving away less free tickets. And then thirdly, reducing your costs. So, you know, focusing on the brand activations. Compared to our first event, we had 2 brand partners, Merch Girls and QV. Then for our next event, we had, I think it was 7. So we really made sure that we had more partners, more paying partners, giving them value. We had, you know, a prototype to show them these are the sorts of people we can get in the room. These are the numbers. This is the reach. You know, all of the people that are in the room, they have these huge followings and they've been sharing, and these are the posts that came out of it. So being able to use that data to then sell your product for the next event was really important. Then also, you know, when it comes to ticket sales, we gave away less tickets for the next event. We were able to sell more, and we were able to sell them at a higher price. So, that was a really important difference from the first and the second. And then finally, focusing on those finer details. So, as I said, the first one was just about delivering something. For our next event, we could think about, okay, how does it run? What is the experience when someone walks up those stairs? What's the first thing we want them to see? How do we get our branding out more? So we had these little water bottles that had, TSS branding on it. Those little things that make the experience elevated. Yeah, I guess those were the main differences. What did you think was different?
I love that. Honestly, I loved seeing like how everything just kind of stepped up in the second, I guess, like Social Summit 2.0. It was so cool. It was just everything that happened in the first one, but just elevated. I have to say, there was another thing that I really loved, which was the continuity of the merch from the merch girls. There was something so exciting about, I feel like I've started a little collection now with the bags.
Yes.
I have the yellow bag from the first one and I have the brown bag from the second. And that I think was like a little detail that not a lot of people would think about when creating something. But you've created obviously not just the merch, but it's a collection that people can, I guess, continue to expand on. But I think what I really loved was seeing, like you said, and I think this is such an important thing that so many people, because I have so many conversations with people when it comes to running events. So many people go into the first event thinking it has to be profitable. I have to make the biggest profit. I have to be like paying myself like a living wage or just any kind of wage. I have to be making money out of it. My business has to be rolling in cash. And I really think that some of the most successful both businesses and events are the ones where people go in not just with the plan to run the first one, but you have a longer term vision of what you want to build up to and you want to grow into. And knowing that that first one is really getting, like you were saying, that proof, making sure that you can figure out what works, what doesn't work, taking all of those lessons that you just shared, being able to take them into the next one and grow from it, but also using that social proof. And I think that's something that you guys did so well, is making sure at the very first event that there was photographers, videographers. It's something that when I look back at events that I've run so many social media strategy and digital marketing strategy workshops over the last couple of years. The very first event that I ran, I had my iPhone just sitting up in the corner and I only shot from one angle the whole workshop. Granted, it was great because I was doing like the lowest possible budget, smallest possible event. It was back when I was running the business on my own. But I wish if I could go back and tell myself to get more social proof, I would have done what I did for the last workshop that I did, which was have photos, videos, obviously working within what your budget allows for. But all of that has been able to be used for social proof for both your events and my events. And I think that that has been such a game changer for getting things into that space of being profitable, being valuable to people, showing up and allowing us to gain more partnerships and having those kinds of deals. Because I guess when it came to the partnerships, what was your strategy there, looking at sort of the first round versus the second? Because like you said, there were so many more partners for round two.
Well, look, the strategy was really show them the proof. So we have like a partnerships package, and well, it's more of an info pack, and we use this to send to our speakers, to our sponsors, to anyone who wants information about the event. And it basically outlines who we are, why we started the conference. It has all of our stats. So in it, we include audience demographics, split of female and men. What are these people interested in? Are they a creator? Are they a brand? Or are they a marketing professional? So we've got a little pie chart of what the split is. And then we have photos, what we created last time, and then each package, what the cost is, what it includes. And so it's really obvious what value they're getting when they purchase one of those packages, basically. So we send that out. There were a lot of companies that we were in early conversations with for the first event, but then they didn't pull the trigger and, become a partner because they're basically putting their blind faith in two people that they don't know can actually pull a crowd yet. So what we did for the first event was if we had target companies that we thought this would be a really good sponsor because we're really well aligned, or for whatever reason, we'd give them free tickets so that they would come, they would experience the event. And then after experiencing it, they'd see, okay, so this is the idea of it. This is what value we can get out of it. And then we'd continue those conversations afterwards, foster those relationships, and then, convert them into paying partners, which was great.
What role do you think your marketing had in the difference? Because obviously there was such an incredible level up with the second event. Obviously there was the partners, all of the different kind of sponsorships that were involved, the activations that you had, the number of people, just the sheer amount of publicity that you got for it as well. What role do you think that marketing played in it, and what did you do differently, taking the learnings from the first event and obviously now adding in that factor of having social proof? What did you do differently in marketing, and what do you think really had a strong impact?
So what we did differently was we focused more on organic. So for our first event, we dabbled with paid marketing, and it was such a headache getting it set up. If anyone has ever tried Meta ads, it is honestly a beast. So I put a lot of time and energy into getting these paid ads out that were not only super expensive, they weren't converting. So for our next event, it was more about fostering the community. It was more about getting into those DMs, speaking to people, but not only that, leveraging off our speakers. So, when it comes to, and this is something that I want to focus on in this conversation, because it's something that I've really learned, is when you're working with a speaker or a partner, it's not just about what value you can give them, it's about what value they can give you. So when we're onboarding a speaker, we're thinking about, okay, who is their audience? And if they reshare it to their audience, what, are those people who follow them going to convert to paying attendees at the social summit? If their audience is all school children, for example, that's not a good speaker for us to have on our stage because we can't leverage off their community. Same when it comes to sponsors. So I've had a discussion this week with a partner, and we were like, okay, this is the package that we want to sell you, and it includes this, this, and this. And they were like, we can't afford this one. We can afford this one, but we still want you to give us all of the other package. And I said, well, we can do that if you can give us value in another way. So how can you help us promote the event? Can you introduce us to other partners that might convert into sales? And it's looking at, okay, if they're not going to pay you money, how can they give you value in other ways? And it works both ways. So, when we're approaching a partner, we're showing them all of the value we can give them, but we've also got to think about what value they can give us.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think the key part of that when it comes to, I guess, any partnership as well, is that alignment, is really looking at what who their audience is, who your audience is. And that's where, like you said, having like a brand kit available, or having, even if you're a business that doesn't have a brand kit, having some kind of stats around your demographic. I'm on, I guess, the opposite side of things, where we became a partner for the Social Summit. We've also just become a partner for New Zealand Business here. NZ Business are doing a business breakfast that's coming up at the end of the month, and we are sponsoring the coffee, and we're also doing free marketing audits to all of the business owners that go there. And same thing, we've looked at who the demographic is for this particular audience, and we've realized it is completely aligned with the Social Collective. And so Coffees and Content's coming to sponsor the coffees, because we want to start those conversations up and really have it be like, grab your cup of coffee, let's sit, let's have a conversation about marketing. So for those who aren't quite ready to invest in marketing, this podcast is awesome. And for those who are ready to invest, the Social Collective is obviously there to be able to support them. And it's really looking at what can you provide in value and what can they provide. So same thing for us, we can provide the listenership on this podcast. We have like a good social following across all of the different social platforms. We've got a really strong, really engaged email database. So we're coming into those partnerships on the other end going, like your partners are going, we can leverage you guys off of XYZ. Like, these are our demographics, these are our people, this is what we can provide. And I think when you find that mutual alignment, it is it's such gold, because it's, you've got what you're looking for, they've got what they're looking for. It's not just a it's a me thing. It's how can I look at what I need, but also what you can provide and what we can provide you, and having that kind of mutual partnership.
I think that's so interesting. So something that we've learnt creating the social summit is how many marketing agencies there are out there. So I think there's
So many.
Some sort of stat that said there was over 2,000 marketing agencies in Australia. Yeah. So when people come to choosing a marketing agency, they have so many options, and there would be so many people flogging a service for, you know, almost nothing. And yet you're charging what you're actually worth. And it's like, how do you differentiate yourself in a market that's so saturated? And I think aligning with an event like this, where you're providing the coffees and you have an opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with someone, that is going to go so much further as a marketing strategy than putting out a post online, because you're building that in-person rapport. And that's why partnerships with events are actually important, because you're getting the people that you're targeting in the room, and it's an opportunity to speak to your target market. So yeah, these events should not be overlooked. So, you know, if you want to partner with this, you can email me.
100%. Well, that's the thing. If you're listening to this podcast and you're looking at what's going on with the social summit and you're thinking we do have an aligned audience, it's the perfect time to reach out, because I think, again, a lot of people forget that there's like paid, there's earned, and there's owned media. And obviously owned is the stuff that you create, paid is the stuff that you pay for, and earned is the stuff that comes when people really represent they reflect what your brand is looking for. They really want to work with you, or they want to talk about you. They'll put you in their magazines, they'll do kind of PR. You can take any of those kind of opportunities that you can get when you connect with people in person. You can use that for paid content as well. And then of course you can also create that on your like organic socials. So I look at all of these events, like when we went to the social summit, it was a great opportunity for Coffees and Content to be seen collaborating with an international brand. Same thing with going to NZ Business. We're looking at it going, we can get photos, videos, social proof, all of the things that we are popping up and aligning ourselves with these businesses. Because same thing, it's, I think, coming up with these creative ways to get in front of people, because like you said, meta ads, and I know from running them day in, day out, they are a headache. They are great when they work. They are useless when they don't work. And it is a bit of a gamble, especially if you haven't done ads before. It can be a little bit of a, I don't know if this is going to work. But I think what a lot of businesses that I've noticed lately are missing is we've become so reliant on digital marketing, and we've become so reliant on being in the online space, paid ads, newsletters, social media. Don't get me wrong, I love it all because I've grown and built an agency that focuses on those things. But the other thing that we also look at is, what is the PR and the media side of things? How can you run activations? How can you partner with aligned brands? It's the same as working with influencer content. Speaking of which, I want to talk about that TikTok that you posted the other day. Can you please explain to people that haven't seen it, you talking about the importance of the working with an influencer that's got a really wide reach, and why that is so important? Because I saw that video and I loved it.
Which video?
And I think
I don't remember.
I need to pull it up. I'm going to link it in the show notes because I want to read exactly what you wrote, because I could not have agreed with it more.
Please. I put out so many posts. I'm like, which one?
Let me find it.
Just while you find that, I wanted to say, on that note, I've noticed now, oh yes, that one. Okay, hang on really quickly. Let me finish this point. Now how after speaking at the social summit, you're writing about how you're an international speaker, and how, you know, that is a great way to sort of leverage what you did at our event to give yourself that proof of, you know, why should we work with me? Well, because I can not only do all of these things, I'm also an international speaker. It gives you that what's the word that I'm looking for?
I guess there's a bit of credibility. And I think as a founder of a brand, that's our responsibility, is to look at what are the ways that we can leverage our businesses also through, I don't necessarily believe that every founder has to have like a full-blown personal brand and be an influencer, but I do think you need to have influence, and you need to have thought leadership content going out on social media. You need to be showing up as a leader in your industry. But I'll pull up I'm going to read what you posted on your video, because I thought it was such an important thing. Speaking of collaborating with the right people and really thinking strategically about your partnerships. And you posted, why do influencers get paid so much? Here's why. A billboard in Sydney. So speaking of like more forms of paid media and I guess in the physical kind of things. A billboard in Sydney gets 50,000 impressions a month. I, a mid-tier influencer, can pull those numbers in less than 24 hours. Attention is the new currency, and creators are constantly outperforming traditional media. Not only do they drive conversation and culture, they drive conversation and conversion. And I think that that is so important, is looking at what is aligned for your brand and what do you need and want. And the landscape is changing. And I think doing things in person and aligning with people that can get you that reach, or opportunities like this that can get you that reach, are huge.
Absolutely. I think it's so interesting because when you're comparing traditional media to influencer marketing, getting your product on the shelf at Sephora is not necessarily going to sell out that product. Yet there are some influencers where if they create one video about that product, that will sell out your product. So now, so it's like the difference between an influencer and how they can achieve conversion compared to the traditional billboards, out of home, stocking something at Woolworths or Coles. It's just astronomical because what the influencer has is trust. They've built the community and people believe what they say most of the time.
Yeah. And that's the thing, finding the right events and the right people to align yourself with. So if you take nothing away from this podcast today, take away the word alignment. I think alignment is everything. Also, if it's misaligned, I've seen so many brands from back in my PR days, so many brands that have ended up with negative press, negative discussions. People haven't been returning to certain events because there's been misalignment. So I think it's really important, no matter what you are doing, whether it's a digital campaign, it's something in person, you're running an event, always look for the partnerships where there's mutual benefit and there's alignment. And speaking of events, I want to talk a little bit about the behind the scenes, because I know you and I have had conversations after both of the social summits around energy, feelings, how it all goes, all the things. But before we discuss the energy side of things, I want to talk about some of the stuff behind the scenes. And one of the, I guess, questions that I would have for you is, obviously this time round and going into the next social summit, you've obviously got oodles of social proof. What, and I know from obviously following your journey, but I would love for anyone listening to this podcast thinking, that's great, I'd love to have an event, I'd love to do a social media workshop like Lauren's done, I'd love to run a social summit or a big scale event like Amy's done. What did you do before you had social proof? What are a couple of things people could do on their own before they have social proof to help sell an event and actually get bums on seats?
Honestly, that's the hardest part. So honestly, give away tickets. Do not be afraid to give away, do it for free. And I think don't be afraid to make a loss, because if you're giving people an experience, then they will become a repeat customer. So we did a survey after our first event, and it was, I think 89% said that they would absolutely come again. So even though for our first event,
amazing,
we made a loss, we gave away so many tickets, we heavily discounted tickets. That's fine, because we know that next time these people will pay, and they will be happy to pay because they know, firstly, that they got so much value out of it. But secondly, when you're kind and when you're generous and when you give someone value for nothing, they then create this, they feel more aligned with your brand. They feel like that, they want to then give back and sort of return the favor. And so, I know that so many people that we've previously given free tickets to will now purchase tickets because we've created that rapport. And now they're a part of the community. So I think just don't be afraid to be generous.
I love that. And I really think that we need to start rewiring our brains and our thoughts when it comes to the money side of things, because like you said, making a loss, it doesn't mean your event failed. Your event was freaking fantastic for the first round. And even though you didn't make profit, there's things to be taken away from it. There's content that you've captured. There's those strategic partnerships with alignment that's more than just the dollar value. There's more that you can take into running the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth event because you've taken the most out of it. And I think that's also another area where I guess it takes planning and it takes work, but if you can really strategically think about what do I want to get out of this event more than just what's going to happen on the day? For example, with the last social media workshop that I did, I first of all used content that I had from the previous workshop so that I could obviously sell tickets. And then with this one, I wanted people to film themselves giving testimonials. I had professionally developed testimonials from the event prior. So I knew, cool, I have those in my content bank. This time round, I want people to film themselves on their phones. So what we did is we offered an extra coaching session with me to anyone, because obviously they came, they wanted to listen to me. It was a fully, I guess, me and you guys kind of day where it was all about learning my thoughts, my strategy, how we can apply that to your business. So knowing that there's something that I can leverage for them that's of value to them. Yes, I'm giving up sort of an hour of my time, but in return, I'm getting an invaluable testimonial on camera that says so much more than just having a written testimonial. So I have video testimonials from every single person that came to that event because they thought so highly of it. They loved the day. And that's now content that, again, I can add to my content bank that I can use for going forward. And the same goes for your event. You've got content that you've added to the bank from event 1 and event 2. And no doubt you'll be using that going into event 3.
Totally. I'm so annoyed at myself for not thinking of that idea, though. That's so clever. Getting people to create testimonials. Something that we did
Yeah.
do at the Social Summit was at the start of the day, as a surprise, we partnered with the Manly Pacific, which is the conference venue that we hosted the event at. And we said, if you give away a free night's stay at the Manly Pacific valued at $600, we can create this competition where we get people at the event to follow the Social Summit, follow the Manly Pacific, upload a photo from the day, tag both accounts. And I said, look, you've got all of these influencers in the room. This is the perfect time to create that organic social contact that then you can use for, the next 6 months to come. And it worked really, really well. Because if you're the people in the room to create that organic content, then you've got it forever.
100%. And I think it's just thinking outside of the box, because that's not necessarily something that everyone would think of, is to partner with the event venue and saying to them, I've got, like you said, you have a whole bunch of influencers in the room. This is the perfect opportunity. And I think, in my opinion, that's the key to having a really successful marketing strategy, no matter what you're doing, is being able to look at every little minute opportunity that could come out of it. And really, I think about it like wringing water out of a tea towel, like really just wringing out every possible piece of content, opportunity, everything that you can think of, so that you've got so much more for moving forward. The last question that I have when it comes to the behind the scenes, and give me a little summary of this and then we'll move on to talking about the energy side of things. But I wanted to ask you, because my events, given that they are small in quantity, well, sort of, I guess, small in size, small in the number of people that I have in a room, because for the strategy side of things, I want to give people that really intimate one-on-one experience. So my workshops, I tend to kind of promote about 8 weeks out. However, bigger events need more time. And I'd love for the listeners of this podcast to be able to hear from you. How long, and you said at the very beginning, oh my gosh, we've only got 4 more months to go before the next one. How soon in advance do you start marketing? And I would love for you to talk me through what you did on the day to encourage people to come to the next one, and how long you need, and you've seen that you need, to be able to really successfully get enough bums on seats to make it a profitable event.
Yeah. So when it comes to the marketing, how long before the event do we start marketing? The marketing doesn't stop. So it is completely continuous. Yeah, there's not like a break that we take. I mean, this time it was a little bit different because of the tonsillectomy, but it is continuous. So we're talking about the next event whilst the current event is going. We are lining up our speakers. At the same time that I was lining up speakers for Sydney, we were then creating a reserve list of speakers that couldn't fit on our Melbourne lineup. And so then we've got them ready to go for Sydney. So this event, each time you're streamlining processes, you're creating efficiencies, which is great. But the marketing is just a continuous stream. I actually haven't got our tickets on sale yet, and I really need to get them up and running for this next event. And that hasn't been a conscious decision, but at the moment we're looking at moving providers. So we were using Try Booking as a platform. now we're going to be using Humanitics. Not only does Humanitics,
Oh,
it's a non-for-profit, so they support
I love them.
they support charities, which is great. But
Mm.
also, they have all of these functions where you can create a piece of content on Instagram or TikTok, and there's a direct booking link that is integrated into those platforms. And that's something that we don't have on
Mm.
Tribe Booking. So for me, it's sort of just getting my head around the new system and getting that live. And of course, we want to line up a couple of sponsors and a couple of speakers before our tickets go on sale. And yeah, it's just been a bit crazy for me. I've literally only come back off the back of my surgery. So everything's a little bit delayed this time. I would have liked a bit longer to have the tickets on sale, but we're working with what we've got. But honestly, for a big
Yeah.
event like this, minimum 3 months. You want to have your tickets.
Love that. And I think that's the other thing as well, to recognize that there's so much testing, adjusting, like reiterating, like just changing so many things. So many things change between the first event, the second event, the third event, the fourth event. Like even when it comes to the venues where you hold it, the speakers that you have, like the topics that you discuss. For us, it was the development of the workbooks. Like, my goodness, if anyone, to those of you who went to my very first ever little, I think I did like a 90-minute, maybe it was 2 hours kind of workshop. Now I do a full day and it's a whole different thing. The workbooks are so different to what they were. It was just a few little questions on a flimsy piece of paper. Now it's like top of the line, proper gloss quality paper. There's diagrams on there. There's pictures. There's like, I call it your marketing Bible because there's so much information in those holistic digital marketing workbooks. But all of those things get to change over time. We've even been looking, we've got something super exciting. I guess everyone listening on this podcast a little exclusive. We are testing out something really exciting for our next event. So we're going to be at the NZ Business event. And then we have another event that we are doing I believe it's in Brisbane in March, that we are going to be at for Coffees and Content. And what we are developing, I'm developing it with my team, is Coffees and Content conversation cards. And so we are working to create like a little card deck that is designed to not just be conversations that people can have, like, hey, how's your day? What's your favorite color? Blah, blah, blah. It's asking questions around marketing and getting you to look at how much about your marketing do you know? Do you understand things like your marketing efficiency ratio? Do you understand what your return on ad spend is, what a return on investment is for your business? Do you know your cost? Do you know a click-through rate? Like all of those kinds of things, really getting people to think about their marketing in so many different ways. And we are creating this little card deck, and I have this long-term vision of this really slick, gorgeous box, thick cards, beautiful content, and we got quoted for it. And I had a mini heart attack looking at the size of the quote. And what I realized in that moment, I had to kind of check myself and go, you know what? The first version doesn't have to be what the final version's going to be. And so the first version is still going to look amazing. My team have been working so hard to design these gorgeous boxes and beautiful cards, and it's such good quality. But I do know that there are like 3 more stages of versions that I want to try and test before we take them internationally next year. And that I had to sit with for a second and go, it's okay, Lauren, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it still is good. It's going to be amazing quality, but it gets to evolve over time. And I think if you can look at that and recognize that things don't have to be picture perfect from day one, because also realistically, these cards at this first event might be something that people look at and throw away. And I don't want to have invested tons of money. Same with getting our branded coffee cups. I don't want to spend tons of money on it if people are just going to put them in the bin and not appreciate them. So we test it, we put it out in the field, we get feedback, then we're going to make iterations. So stay tuned. We have so many things coming. We've got caps for our merch line. We have the Coffees and Content coffee cups that are coming. And we also have the Coffees and Content conversation cards. So we're creating like a whole merch line, which is super exciting. But to wrap up this episode, I would love to ask you to share 2 of your top energy tips, I guess, when it comes to managing your energy, whether it's before, during, or after. What are 2 things you could recommend to anyone listening to this podcast that they can do to really look after themselves? Because I feel like both you and I have burnt ourselves out slightly with events that we have both run. But what are 2 things that you found to be really valuable for you so that you can continue to have the excitement running the next version and the next version and the next version of these events?
Well, I can really only think of one valuable tip right now. Two is a bit too much at this time in the morning. Firstly, like, do not be afraid to say no to things. I think you've got to, especially when you're pulling together an event of this size, there are so many things that you can stress yourself out about that do not affect the bottom line, that are not going to change anyone's experience. So all of these little, I think my dad calls them side projects. He's like, don't distract yourself with side projects. Focus on the main event. Okay. If it's not going to change the whole day, if it's not going to change an experience in those weeks leading up to the event, don't focus on it. You know, so say no to things. If people are trying to, you know, call you for a meeting, you don't have to pick up the phone. It can roll to voicemail. And, you know, if it's really urgent, you'll call them back. So just be careful where you put your energy. And then, okay, I've thought of another one. Schedule time, and I think you and I were going to say the same thing here, but schedule time after your event to have a break. So I think, you know, in the lead up to the social summit, I was really unwell. On the day of, I'm so surprised that my voice held out, but you could hear it shake on stage. It was like it was about to go. And then the next day it was gone. And we had scheduled in a podcast for the Monday. And I you and I was like, I'm not good. I can't talk. So
I know. I remember listening to your voicemail and I was like, girl, you've got no voice.
Yeah, it was awful. It was completely gone. So I think, you know, allowing yourself to have that downtime after the event. What would be your tips?
Yeah, I think mine would be the same, as knowing that especially the last couple of weeks in the lead up are going to be such a big push. There's going to be so many things you're finalizing, organizing. So first and foremost, block out time so you have time available. You're not going, oh shoot, like I've got 52 meetings today and then I also somehow have to go, like for me, I have to go get things printed. I have to pick up the workbooks from the printers. I have to, like, going forward now, we've got banners we're organizing. We've got conversation cards we're printing, coffee cups we're getting organized. I have told every one of our suppliers that is printing all of this for us. My team is designing it in-house, and then we've obviously outsourced the printing. But for all of the printers, I've asked for it to be with us a minimum of a week before the event, because I do not want to be stressing the day before that I don't have content. The day before my event that I ran in February this year, my big TSC retreat, the day before I was picking up my banners because I did not have them printed. And going forward, I will not make that mistake again because I don't need to be running around and chasing. So blocking out time ahead so that you've got time to grab all the things you need and sit down and give yourself some space, like go on a walk and go, okay, what else do I need to bring? What else do I need to prep? Is there anything I need to do? And then I absolutely agree with you. Block in time afterwards to allow yourself to just chill. Take the day off, or if you can't take the day off, some of the time I will just block out to be at home for the day. I will sit on the couch. I'll still reply to some emails, but I just do little bits and then I'll go for a walk and I'll make myself a really healthy, like high protein lunch. And I'll make sure that I'm fueling my body, because the first few events that I did, I definitely overstressed myself, overconsumed caffeine, wasn't eating properly, and then the knock-on effect, not just the day after, but the weeks after, has such a big impact on your business. And especially, I guess, because I'm now in a position with a team, I need to show up for my team and I need to still be able to be there to be the boss, to be there to help them when they need support. And so if I'm running myself into the ground for the sake of putting on a great event, I need to check a few things and then also look at, okay, how can I take some time to rest? And the last thing that I would share as well is celebrating and remembering to actually have a celebration. I know you are so good for it, and I need to take a leaf out of your book, going out and having a drink afterwards and popping some bubbles, because I think I missed every opportunity in my early business stages to celebrate. And it's not really been until I started to have more of a team on board where they recognize the things we need to celebrate. But I think it's so important to recognize all of the hard work that you've put into making things happen and recognizing that you did it. Like you put that together, you created that. That's why I'm so, just as someone who's gotten to know you over like the last year of you doing the social summit, I'm so proud of what you've created and I get to witness it growing and evolving. And I think as founders, we need to take that on board too, of going, yeah, I did that thing and I made that happen. So yeah, that would be my other thing, is to celebrate.
Oh, love that. One thing I want to mention is also, so you mentioned in the lead up, like give yourself enough space to actually enjoy it. Something that's really
Yes.
important with an event is, I was trying to sell tickets until the day before of the social summit. And my dad said to me, put your phone down. You've done the work. You've sold out the event.
Yeah.
What does an extra 2 tickets matter at this point? He was like, go
Yeah.
speak to the vendors, get to know the staff at the location, get to know all of these people who are delivering the boxes, and because those are the relationships that you're going to carry into the next event.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to be really important. And you only get one day to embrace this.
Yeah.
And I was writing my opening address on the morning of the event. I wish I'd done that before, because I should have been standing at the door and greeting our guests and really just having that moment of being like, this is what I've created and look at these amazing people. And as people walk through, they were saying to my mum, thank you, this is amazing. I wish they were giving me that compliment.
Yeah, exactly.
I think just planning your time and getting to a point where you say enough is enough. The work is done. Now it's time for me to savor this moment. And
100%.
I'm going to have to come over to New Zealand and attend one of your events, because God, you speaking about it right now, I'm like, it sounds so good and I want the merch.
Oh, honestly, come over. There's so many more cool things that are happening over here in New Zealand, which is super exciting. But at the same time, I also feel like it's such an honor to be able to come overseas and attend the social summit as well, because that's the kind of stuff that so many agency owners and I talk about over here, is that we wish that we had more of that stuff. But I love what you said about really just making sure that you take time to solidify those relationships too, to talk to the people that have given the time and the energy to be part of the day. And I remember even you and I on the day sat down and had a good chat in between doing the different sessions. And I remember thinking, wow, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit with me for 5 minutes just to chat. And I mean, to be honest, it wasn't 5 minutes. I feel like it was more like 20 minutes. We sat down and just had a good chin wag. And I'm thinking, you are so busy. Yeah, and you were running around here, there, and everywhere. But I'm like, I love the fact that we got a chance to connect and chat, and it just deepens the connection and deepens that relationship. So I think what I'd love everyone listening to this episode for them to take away, and for those of you listening, for you guys to take away, is we've been running events for a while. We are still very much in the thick of it. Every day we are constantly changing things, finding new ways to do things, finding new ways to improve. And I think that lesson in itself can be taken into all areas of marketing, business, life as well. But there is no perfect formula that once you've got it, it's like, cool, I can sit back and just chill. Everything has to be constantly evolving, and it's evolving closer towards the dream that you have. And I think if you keep that at your core and remember, what am I doing this for? Who am I doing this for? And what do I want it to look like? And if you use that to be your North Star and to guide you towards what you want to create, align your energy in that direction. And honestly, no matter what you do, it is going to be amazing. No matter how big or how small, celebrate those wins. And yeah, is there anything else that you would like to share to wrap up the episode?
Well, since partnering with the Coffees and Content podcast, I just want to say how many new people we had coming from New Zealand for our second event.
I love that.
Yeah. So our first one, we had, I think, 4 people from New Zealand. And at our second social summit, we had over 10. I haven't tallied up, but there was a lot. So yeah, you've definitely.
Come on, Kiwis.
So here's the alignment, right? So partnering with the Content podcast was a great idea.
I love that. Oh, that's so awesome to hear. Yeah, Kiwis, we need to get overseas. I know that there's so many more of you that I have chatted to since the second summit, as well, since seeing all the content that we've posted on social that are interested. So, Amy, before we wrap up, give us a heads up on when the next summit is going to be and where it is going to be, and tell everybody all the details so they can come along.
So the next social summit is on Thursday, 19 February at the Ridges Hotel in Melbourne. Tickets aren't on sale yet, but they might be once this episode drops. So follow us at the Social Summit on Instagram. We'll be posting regular updates there. And hopefully by the time this episode drops, we will have our tickets sorted and online.
Amazing. Well, I will put all of the links and all the details in the show notes below. And of course, also everything will be on social media. So make sure you're following the Social Summit. Make sure you're following the Coffees and Content podcast, because that is where you'll get all of the details. But thank you so, so much for being on the mic with me yet again. We're going to get in another episode hopefully before Christmas, and then we will be back again in the new year. So Amy's not going anywhere anytime soon, guys. So keep checking out all of the episodes to hear more. But in the meantime, if you have questions, or if there's anything that you would like us to talk about in the upcoming episodes that we do together, if you want to know more about the behind the scenes of the Social Summit or anything that we're doing together, let us know. Drop us messages over on Instagram and we will add them to the list. We've got some exciting things coming up for our next podcast together as well. So stay tuned. But make sure in the meantime you like, subscribe, follow everywhere. Go check us out on YouTube too, because we are now on YouTube. So go check it out, and I will see you guys same time, same place next week. Bye.
Bye.